First time I've ever seen that.
It's 6 o'clock, so I'd like to go ahead and get started. I'd like to first welcome everybody out. I appreciate the participation and support for the Planning Commission and the items on the agenda. I'm sure we'll hear more for that than maybe for us, but that's great. The more participation we have as a community and as a city, the better off we are overall. So I appreciate that. I would like to start with the roll call, and I will start down here to my right. We have Shelley Nazer, who's a recently approved Planning Commission member and is a voting member for the Planning Commission. That is with us now, Shelley Nazer. Brian Marble, as far as I know, we expect him to be here, but he's not here at this time. Myself, Michael Fortune, I'm the chair of the Planning Commission. To my left is Tyler Riggs, voting member of the Planning Commission. To his left is Bob Washburn, and he is our alternate right now. And really glad to have him. He is a new member to the Planning Commission as well. Both Shelley and Bob Washburn were approved by City Council and accepted and are here with us. And so I look forward to having a little bit things to come from them. And then on the end is our legal guidance and counselor and keep us on the right path, and a lot of great input, Joe Chambers.
My E&O coverage does not cover anything.
So anyway, I'm glad to have all of you with us. Also grateful for Tyler, Ryan, and Scarlett, who help us tremendously here in the meeting. And here's Brian Marble, as we just mentioned, joining with us. Brian is the vice chair of the Planning Commission. So with that being said, I would like to move forward with the Pledge of Allegiance, and I will offer that.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Also, there were sign-in sheets as you entered the room. One is just to show that you were in attendance. The other is if you wanted to actually speak. So in a few minutes, we'll gather that list. So if you did want to speak, please make sure that your name is on there. And we will move forward with our first item, which is the approval of our minutes. And did everybody have a chance to look through those?
I just found one typo correction on line 65. It should just read overview rather than over.
Line 65, to give an overview of the application. Yeah. Okay.
There's one other on line 82. Motion to approve the amended final plat. Should be amended rather than amended.
It's a typo. Thank you, Bob. Appreciate it. All right. Tyler, Brian, did everything look good to you guys? Joe, you all right with it?
Yes.
Okay. I would entertain a motion that we accept the minutes with those couple of corrections. If somebody'd like to make a motion.
Make a motion to approve the minutes. Make the corrections.
I have a motion by Joe Chambers to accept the minutes with those couple of corrections.
Second.
I have a second by Tyler Riggs. All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you. Okay. The next item that we have is public comments. This is an opportunity for citizens, if they want to get up and say something. They have 3 minutes, a couple of minutes here to do that. If it relates to an item on the agenda, we would ask that you wait until that item comes up. But is there anybody that would like to come up and have any comments they'd like to make? Did we have any emails or messages, letters?
We have a couple for the public hearing, but none for just public comment.
Okay, all right. Well, if there is nobody that would like to make public comment, any public comments in general, then I will close that portion of our meeting and open our meeting for the public hearing. The public hearing is in regards to the zoning of parcel 02004, 0001 and 02004, 0002. Probably known more to everybody as the Vineyard North Phase. The Providence City Planning Commission will take comments and questions regarding a request from Visionary Homes to zone these parcels, the 0001 and the 0002, located in the general area of 600 South and South 1000 East, which are currently in the annexation process to be zoned as single family high. So with that, do we want to go ahead and have the comments read that we received? And then from there, we'll open up to the public.
This first comment is from Barbara Moon, a Providence City resident. This is for the public comment for the Providence Planning Commission meeting on September 14th, 2022. Because the developer is now required to present a plan and follow that plan, choosing the correct zone to best serve the current and future residents is crucial. I welcome the fact that the developer has said they'll build wider roads, which is paramount for the safety and quality of life for the residents of Vineyard. The plan shown at the city celebration seems to show 63 homes in this phase, which would make it a single family medium density for that acreage. Single family high for that area would allow for 86 homes, even with the wider roads. Again, since they are not required to follow what was shown at the city celebration or any plan you may have seen, just the assigned zone, I feel like the only way to have the outcome of 63, which look great and I support, instead of 86 homes is to require a single family medium. If you grant them SFH, single family high, the final result will be much more dense than the advertised rendering showed, and more dense than Brookside, as shown in the next paragraph. Visionary is asking for single family high zone, which is the same zone as Brookside Village. I went to the county parcel map and wrote down the size of the lots in that development. Of the 145 lots I saw, 26 of them are the minimum size, 0.14 acres, or 7.26 homes per acre. There are an additional 67 that are 0.15 to 0.18 of an acre, which are also SFH. There are 13 homes that would fit into a single family medium density, 0.19 to 0.22. 13 that would fit in the single family residential density, 0.23 to 0.26, and 26 that have the acreage for single family traditional or single family large. It's clear that most of Brookside development fits within the single family high zone, but that is mitigated by the over 1/3 of the lots that are larger than single family high. I will remind the commission that over 80% of voters and over 80% of survey respondents did not want this area to have high density. I believe that includes single family high density. Thank you for your consideration, Barbara. This next comment is from Kevin Yu. This is for the Providence Planning Commission meeting today regarding the annexation and zoning of Vineyard Phase 2. The latest plan shown in the city celebration for this parcel was consistent with the single family medium density. Given the current density on Phase 1, this seems a much more appropriate zoning density than single family high. I recommend that the Planning Commission zone this area as single family medium. This will likely align more with the will of 80% of the province voters than a single family high density will. Thank you, Kevin.
Thank you, Tyler. All right. With that, let me grab the list real quick, just a minute. Absolutely. I failed to mention something before we started on the public hearing portion. Tyler, I'll let you go ahead.
Just to avoid any perceived conflict of interest, as I am a resident of the south portion of the Vineyard neighborhood, I'll be recusing myself of the discussion and voting on this matter.
Does the recusal allow Mr. Washburn to then vote? Or does that recusal still leave a quorum of 5 members?
I'm going to ask for clarification from Brian. Let's start with that.
So as long as he's, I would say as long as he's present, he's part of the quorum.
Okay.
So if he were recused and left, that would change the quorum. But as long as he remains, I think that stays with the quorum. Would you?
That's what I would think.
We'll concur as staff, so.
Okay. Thank you, Tyler. All right. And we have Gary Wilkinson. Come up and, when you come up to the microphone, if you'll please state your name, that would be great.
My name is Gary Wilkinson. I'm a resident of River Heights. I help represent the Political Issues Committee that began and saw through the referendum initially with the initial classification of the vineyard property. I sat down with Visionary a number of months ago with a number of the residents of Providence, had a discussion about this issue, and they initially indicated that they would like to go with single family high density. And we'd explained to them, and it's their property, they can move as forward as they want, but that we had declined that we would be okay with that as a group of individuals. I know I'm not a member of Providence, but I'm closely associated with a number of members of Providence that would have a vote in this issue. And I know that the consensus has not changed among those groups of individuals with respect to high density. We've gone through the referendum process once before, and I think people are inclined to do that again. Looking at 86 units there is not what we would agree to, the size of the lots. Perhaps with the development agreement that assured residents of the size of the lots and held Visionary to a particular standard with respect to that, that may be something that we'd be amenable to. But I would say for to assure that Visionary doesn't build high density in there, we would advocate for a single family medium density zoning classification in this area. Like I said, if Planning and Zoning Commission decides to go with single family high density, which I don't think is apropos for this area and clearly not what the residents want, then we would be inclined to go through the referendum process once again. So thank you.
Thank you for your comments. I have Jason Lindley, is that correct?
Sorry, that's for another item.
Oh, okay.
I'm on the agenda.
Okay. All right. My eyesight is not that good. Jim? Jim from Nibley?
No, it's John. I'm
John.
Jason.
Okay.
Item number 3.
Oh, so now I realize who that is over there. I told him my eyesight's not that good. It's good to see. Okay. So you two are together for a different item. All right. How about William Nee? Thank you.
Thanks for hearing me. I don't really have.
Could you state your name?
Oh,
just
sure.
for-
Oh, sure. My name is William Nee, for the record. I don't really have any great or well planned out thoughts. I just mainly came here to find out more. I'm currently a resident of Vineyard, and I would just say I think a lot of the current residents are just a little bit concerned that some of the amenities that are in the plan for our contingent upon the north development. So that's mainly what I came to reflect. And thank you very much for the opportunity. And
I appreciate your comments. I also have Natalie Pace.
Natalie Pace. I live in River Heights. We live directly west and south of the vineyard, so it borders our property. My concern and questions that I'm bringing to you tonight it's about when this started about 3 or 4 years ago, whenever this began, we were told that there would be a 6-foot fence around the perimeter of the vineyard. So my question is, that's not on the rendering that I've seen recently. I'm wondering if that is still something that is in the plan. Can I ask that?
Yes,
right
you
now?
can ask just about whatever you want, but we'll have the developer come up and
Okay.
talk and ask if he can
Okay.
address that.
Okay, and so part of that question too is if that fence is gonna go in between our property and this property in question.
Okay.
And then, I know there is also a walking trail that was supposed to go around the perimeter. Will that walking trail be there? We live on a small farm. On our small farm, we have big animals, and I think that poses a safety risk to citizens that are going to be living in the vineyard. Our fences keep the animals in, but they don't keep children out. So that's something that we would like to be considered as far as the fence that is going to be there and where that will be in relation to a walking trail, if there is going to be one on that side of the property. Also kids sticking their hands through the fence. And then of course, we've had people already throw garbage onto our property. And I realize that a fence is not going to stop that, but it is something that we've run into so far. So anyway, those are my concerns and my questions.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Yeah. Okay. All right. Okay, that's the list of individuals we have on the list to speak. Is there anyone else?
With, is it Jim?
Yeah, right.
Okay, I missed you. I'm sorry.
I'm Jim Bragner and from River Heights.
Yes.
Former mayor.
Yes. When this was first presented to River Heights, Visionary Homes had indicated that would be medium density homes in that area. A group of our residents was very unhappy because they wanted to put high density to the south of this area. And so they elected to come to Providence rather than go through River Heights to get this approved. But we strongly recommend that there be medium density homes there, like the ones that are immediately north of there. It would keep the value of the property fairly the same, which is good. That's not the only reason, but also that's next to a school. And if you have high density, a lot of cars driving through and around there, it increases the possibility of accidents. So I think that the medium density would be much better served, especially for the residents of River Heights. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate the comments.
On behalf of the River Heights Crossing Guard, I didn't see your
Yes,
my
that's
name
okay.
down.
Yes, if you will come forward, please, and state your name for the
Sorry, I
record.
kind of bypassed
That's
that.
all right.
My name is Retha Nelson, and I'm from River Heights and also a River Heights Crossing Guard. When last year we started noticing huge increases in cars coming from Providence and turning down 600 in front of River Heights Elementary, and we kept thinking, where are these cars? Where are these people coming from? We did not put 2 and 2 together. They're coming from the vineyard, and the amount has increased substantially to the point that we have had more police officers there. They have said this is nuts. We have had tons more children, and I'm not talking older children. I'm sure Tyler can say there's a lot of little kids that live in there. These are kindergartner, first graders. If we are to continue with the high density housing, even single family, that's who we're going to attract in that area. The school is full. The school, I just talked to the principal 2 days ago. They have a contractor coming to add on to the school and move the playground out into the grass area. The school is completely full. Adding this more, I know it's a school district problem. It's not a River Heights or Providence issue. The traffic is a huge concern. It will affect River Heights. The traffic will. As a crossing guard, I'm concerned. I refuse to watch a child get hit because we chose high density over medium. I know it's not a lot of houses difference. It is enough. It's enough houses different that it will make a big difference. I agree with Mayor Brackner and also Gary Wilkinson. He represented us. And I think less is best. Let's stick with what is there. I'm sorry, Tyler, to say it's not pretty over there right now. It's not pretty in that area. It's a lot of crammed in homes. The roads are extremely small. There's a lady that lives down there. That's my, I hate to bring church on state, but that's my ward. There was a lady in there that fell, hit her head, and the ambulance was unable to get to her because there were two cars down the street. The ambulance was unable to go down. Let's be smart. The people spoke in the referendum. The people spoke in the survey that went out. Let's listen to the people of Providence. Let's be smart about this. I'm perfectly fine with medium density. Thank you. I appreciate your.
Thank you, appreciate it. I do know that the schools have, it's not just a problem here for Providence. It's not just a problem for the River Heights Elementary. It's countywide, and they have worked and have had several meetings with the school district to address those issues, and but everything takes time and so forth. So please, just 1 minute. I had a hand up over here. Would you like to speak? I just need to make sure we limit the comments to under 3 minutes. And Tyler, if you would just track that for me, but hopefully everybody will be okay.
Okay, I'm Allison Olson, and I'm anxious to get this done. I feel bad for the people that live there. I want it to be a nice place for the people to live. I had a couple of questions that maybe Dallas could address. I thought this looked really good. The plan that they sent out at the city meeting, it looks good to me. It's always hard to tell, but I just wonder if this plan that you send out, can that be done with a medium density? And if it can, then why not? And if it can't, then can we have some kind of guarantee that it will be limited to this number of homes? I don't see a pickleball court in there. I don't know whether other amenities that were promised that that we need to make sure in there that they've been promised. And then also I'm very adamant about the roads. I just think when we build something, if we're building it for the people that's lived there, the people that are in the area, we build one that can be maintained by the city. I just don't see why we want to make little roads that people have to pay to maintain. I don't see how that serves the residents. So that's really important to me too.
Super. Thank you, Allison. Just need a minute to catch up on my notes here. All right, we had a hand over here, please.
I'm Jan Arnell from Providence. During the annexation portion that was taking place, there was a point brought up that there was a piece of county land that would be made an island if that portion was annexed. And I want to know if that was ever addressed or if that was just shoved aside. It should have been taken care of at the county level, but they obviously didn't do their homework. So we need to, at a city level, make sure that that isn't violating anything before it's completely annexed and we're a problem. I think also when we were in that annex meeting, I think he's the current mayor of River Heights came and said, River Heights will not allow road access from Vineyard North onto that, is it by the elementary school so that limits the being able to get in and out of the vineyard to that main 3rd East. Has that been talked about? Has that been addressed at all? Because that puts a lot of traffic in one area to get out. And also I want to say that, the city people have spoken with the referendum and with the survey that we did. And if the city allows Vineyard to go high density, it's not Vineyards that we should be angry at. It's you and the city council because you allowed it. So they will build whatever you allow. And so it really falls back on you guys. I get upset when people get mad at Vineyard. They're here to make money, but they'll do what you allow them to do. So I think you need to be cautious with that.
I appreciate your concern for our welfare.
Thank you.
But you also understand that we're just a recommending body.
Oh, I know that, but
That decision
sometimes
is made
this
by
recommending
the city
body,
council.
like with the annexation problem and that, just push the issue to the city council. And maybe it shouldn't be pushed to them. Maybe it should be answered here first.
Well,
Instead
again,
of being pushed.
as a recommended body, and we do our best to do what we think is best for the city of Providence.
So my question, Ryan, was that annexation island issue ever?
Islands are not prohibited by state law.
It is not prohibited.
Islands are not prohibited by state law.
And so was. the
So an
mayor-
island can be created.
It can be created.
Absolutely.
So the mayor was on. No, thank you.
I can point out other islands. That law did change in the last 5 years or so, but islands are allowed. The county reviews that. The county has an ability to weigh in on that, whether they want to allow it, because the county has to maintain. The other option is the adjacent property owner could join that annexation and come in if they wanted to.
Thank you. I
So-
appreciate that. Being able to know that. That was. Thank you very much, Ryan.
Thank you, Jan. I appreciate it. Okay. Is there, one of the things I've always tried to do is to give everybody an opportunity to speak. Sometimes that's come back to bite me. I learn more about my family history than I really wanted to, but I want to continue to do that. So as we go forward here, I don't want to drag the meeting last forever, but if there is somebody that feels a definite need to make a comment before I close this portion of the meeting, I would ask that raise your hand and let us know. If there isn't, thank you all very much for participating and expressing your views and making the comments that you have made. At this time, I will close the portion of the public hearing. And now, wait a minute, before I do, is this where I would start? If you'll help me out, it's been a while since we've had a meeting. Would we have the developer representatives speak to us now, or will we do that in our discussion on the presentation of their proposal?
Probably in the discussion unless,
Okay.
and that's when they can answer questions.
Okay, we will do that. Then with that being said, we will close the public hearing portion of the meeting, and we will move to the legislative action, item number 2. The zoning recommendations for parcel 02004, 0001, and 02004, 0002, the Vineyard North Phase. The Providence City Planning Commission will review, discuss, and may take action, making a recommendation to the City Council regarding the zoning of parcels 0001 and 0002, as mentioned earlier. So at this time, we will move forward with that, and I would ask Scarlett if you would come up and give us an overview of some.
Before she does that, I want to make a comment.
Absolutely.
Make sure everybody's aware of it. We are a recommending body. And by that, I don't think we're abdicating our responsibility to make a recommendation. But the public needs to know that if we made a decision to reject this, that the developer can go to the city council and the city council can approve us. We make a decision to accept it and recommend the high density. The city council can reject it or change it. This body is to have the public hearing and make a recommendation. And I only say that, I see a lot of heads nodding yes, that you understand that, but not everybody in the audience may understand that, so that you can appreciate the importance of going to the city council for the final action.
Thank you, Joe. I appreciate that. Anybody want else to have any comment to make before we move forward? Started, thank you. Okay, as everyone knows, we have received an annexation petition for annexation. It did go through the Boundary Commission, and the Boundary Commission actually did talk about the creation of the island and explained that the county had looked into that and that they had agreed to move forward with the creation of the island. So that was discussed during the county's review. It was also discussed during the Boundary Commission's review. Other couple of things. The reason why we're having a public hearing in this area is because in the general plan, that particular piece of property was shown to go for life cycle residential. And because that's not well received, they're asking for a zone different than life cycle residential. If someone comes to us and asks for, because the way the general plan works, that's when the public and the planning commission weigh in on the general plan. And so when if someone's asking for a zone that's in the general plan, we don't go through another public hearing because that's already been established. But if they ask for something different, then we want to make sure that we get public input. That's the reason we're going through public hearing processes at this point in time. And I appreciate the comments that have been made. One of the things that's kind of interesting that sometimes people miss in our ordinance is that we actually do a maximum number of units as well as minimum lot sizes. And the single family medium density and the single family high density are the exact same density. They allow 5.5 units per net acre. So you take out the part that's dedicated to the public, and that has to be subtracted from the overall acreage. And then what's left is considered the net acreage, and and that's what they get to use. That's what they get to base it on. And both, even though the lot sizes are different, both of them cap it at 5.5 units per net acre. So you may get more houses with single family high, but not the difference if you just did the math straight on acreage and straight on lot size. There's not quite that much difference. Other than that, the only other differences in the zone between the two zones, in single family medium, an interior side yard, which is the side between the two residences, the two homes, is 10 feet. In single family high is 7.5 feet between the two homes. So you have a minimum of 15 feet foundation to foundation, where in the other one you have a minimum of 20. Another difference is that on the street side, if you're on a corner lot, your front yards have to be 20 in both zones. But if you're on a street, on a corner lot, the street side in the medium zone, in the single family medium is 20, and in the single family high is 15. So other than that, Brian and I looked at our current ordinances, and I went through my cheat sheet. Other than that, the zones are the same as far as requirements. The single family, actually, I think I didn't talk about the frontages. I skipped. So let me go back. The medium requires a minimum of 8,000 square foot lots with a 70-foot frontage, and the high requires minimum 6,000 square foot lots with a 60-foot frontage minimum. Now that doesn't mean that they can't have 10,000 square foot lots or 7,000 square foot lots. They just can't go below those minimums, and they can't go below those minimum frontage requirements. Those frontage requirements are measured at the setback line, because if you look at a cul-de-sac, if you were to look at a home on a cul-de-sac, very few of them would have, even in our 95, even in our single family traditional, very few would have 95 feet of frontage along the cul-de-sac, or they'd take the whole cul-de-sac. So you will see some
that have a little bit narrower frontage, but at the back where the setback is, it has to meet these minimums. So that allows for cul-de-sacs to work. Twin homes, it's kind of interesting. Twin homes have a minimum lot width of 47.5, and a twin home is a home with a 0 lot line. So it's like, looks like one home on a great big lot, but it's actually 2 homes on 2 separate lots. So, and then as far as the actual uses in the zones, it's kind of interesting, and I'm gonna have to go back and look, but planned unit development in single family high, a planned unit development can come in with a conditional use. In single family medium, there's no planned unit development on our use chart. I will have to check that, but if somebody goes home, I just, in all transparency, if somebody goes home and pulls that ordinance up and sees there's a difference, I just want to make that clear. I don't know if that is a typing error that happened when we went from manual to our online code, or if it's just, if that really is the way it is, but there is that little discrepancy. Other than that, all of the uses are that are either permitted or conditional are the same for both zones. So
What's the number that's up there in the left-hand corner? That's not very good.
6,000?
The zoning regulation number.
Oh, 10-8-1.
Thank you.
And for those of you that might like to look at the use chart, that's 10-6-1. So,
Okay.
Anyway, those are, you know, the technical questions. It's premature for staff to get involved in reviews of concepts at this point because we don't have a zone to review to. And so the developers need to look at our ordinances, and when they put things together, they need to present things that they feel would meet the ordinance. But staff has not reviewed them at this point because we don't have that ground level to start from for our review. So any questions before
we let you go? Thank you for that overview,
Oh.
clarification.
And one other thing, you're only recommending on whether you agree with the requested zone.
Right.
You're not recommending on the annexation at all, just the requested zone.
I do have one quick question. I don't know if you can answer this, but I know a lot of times we make a decision based on the surrounding area. And I'm curious if you know what the Saddle Rock subdivision across the street is. That single family medium? I mean, it might be different. But is that medium?
I looked, I don't know what River Heights, that's in River
Yeah.
Heights, and I don't know what their zones are right off the top. I think a lot of those lots, well, I actually think there's 2 zones, if I remember right. There's a zone right up against 1000 East, and then I think there's a different zone west of that. I think there's 2 developments there, I think. They can correct me, the River Heights can if I'm not right, and I think one of them has, whether it was by design or whether it was by zone, I don't know, but the lots that are closer to 1000 East are a little bit larger, and then the lots in the development to the west are just a little smaller than that, but I think they're between 8 to 10,000. But I haven't gone and looked for quite some time.
I just pulled that up on there. You'll note that inside of Providence, we use a different nomenclature than others. Oftentimes you'll use a residential number of units and the amount of square feet. So this could be residential 1 unit for every 10,000 square feet. So, but we did, obviously that's however they define, but that's the That's the county's map.
Any other questions for Scarlett? Scarlett, I have one, if you could help me. In real simple terms. We talk about the two zones, single family medium, single family high, having the same density of 5.5 per acre that can be utilized based off the net acreage, correct?
Mhm.
So with that being said, on this piece of property, what is the difference between the number of lots that I could have between single family medium and single family high?
Well, honestly, Michael, I haven't looked at it on the net acre
Okay.
idea. I think if you took gross acreage, it would probably be somewhere between 5 to 8 lots different. But the
Okay.
net acreage, when you take the net acreage out, I'm not sure what that difference would be.
So if I understand that correct, on that size of piece of property, there could be a difference. If we just use the total acreage as a, for talking, the difference between the two zones would be maybe 5 or 8 more homes based between the two different
sizes.
sizes.
Mhm.
Because someone had mentioned earlier, and I just wanted to clarify that I understood that one's may look like 60 and one may be 86 or something, but we're really talking probably 5 to 8 homes. But again, we'd have to get down to the net acreage to know exactly.
We
what we're
would,
doing.
yeah, I wouldn't want to do that. And that's just kind of simple math in my head.
Yes,
Just taking the rough gross acreage and timesing it by 5.5
sure.
and then dividing that difference between 8,000 and 6,000. But so, but anyway, so I'm not a computer by any means.
I
But
appreciate that very much, very
Okay.
much. Any other questions before we let Scarlett go? Okay, thank you,
Thank you.
Scarlett. What I'd like to do at this time is invite Dallas to come on up, representing the developer, Visionary Homes, and welcome you here tonight. I appreciate it. I know we've seen you a few other times before, but I'm glad that you're here, and I hope that you can help address some of these questions and so forth. But I want to give you a chance to go ahead and present whatever you might want to, and then we'll get to questions.
Okay, no, I appreciate that. My name is Dallas Nickel. I'm with Visionary Homes. Work in their land development department. I've been working on this project for as long as I've been at Visionary Homes, which is about 3 years. So a lot's happened. I think everybody in the whole city is very familiar, more familiar with this project, probably than any other project. And I wrote down a lot of questions here, so I'm just gonna start firing off answers to the ones that I have responses to.
Okay.
The first one I want to address is one thing that comes up consistently is amenities for the existing vineyard residents. I don't quite know how to say this clear enough because I've said it on every opportunity I've had in front of this body, and when we're at Sauerkraut Days, anybody that's ever asked, I think the answer has always been consistent, and that is from day one, we have committed to a clubhouse, a pool, and a pickleball court. That is still our commitment today. We've gone now from, on this north piece, the original proposal in LCR had 210 units, somewhere right around there. We're now down to, I believe this layout's actually 74. I think somebody said it was 64. This layout has 74 units on it.
Okay.
We are 100% committed to those amenities. So I want to, again, I don't know how to be clearer on that. So hopefully everybody understands that. The timing of which, is a concern to people, and it is tied to some approval for this piece. And that's also been consistent in our answers to residents is I can't go build that until we can move forward on this piece. So that's been a hang up. And we're trying to get to the bottom of that. But as soon as we get an approval, our first phase of development will include the improvements to that clubhouse parcel, and we'll go vertical on that just as soon as we can. So hopefully we can put that to bed and no further questions on that. Second one is roads. Roads has come up over and over and over. The roads in the south phase of Vineyard, it was a lesson learned. I don't know quite how else to say it. I mean, there's lots of private roads out there that are narrow, and we went along with that. And today, I think we all would agree, visionary included, those roads are narrower than maybe they should have been. Every road in this new phase is proposed to be public. They'll be 60 feet wide. I think 170 is actually 66 feet wide because of just the designation the city has for it. So all public roads maintained by the public, which that cross section allows for parking on both sides of the street and 2 lanes of traffic. So hopefully that's also something that we can just put to bed. No talk of going back to the roads that are in the south phase.
Can I ask you a question about that south phase, just for me to understand for sure? I understand with the roads in the south phase, there was no street parking. Is that one of the regulations?
That is one of the regulations, and Tyler, you recused yourself, so I don't know if you can open your mouth or not, but we have tried and are trying diligently to enforce that. That's also a lesson learned of how much power does the HOA really have, right?
I was curious because of this situation, of the example that was given of the 2 cars blocking the ability for the ambulance to get through.
Yeah,
Those 2 cars shouldn't have been there in the first place.
should not have been. And so we're citing people, and it's having mixed amounts of success. Some people are upset that we're citing them, and other people are upset that we're not citing them more and that we're not towing people. It's a mixed bag. It's, we could have a whole discussion about that, but the intent was no parking on those roads. So anyway, hopefully that item is clear. On roads, all public roads, full width, as wide as any road in Providence. Let's see, what else? Talked about the island with the county, right? Appreciate you clarifying that. On this particular layout, I guess I'll address that. I know that today we're in front of you for annexation, and also there's a rezone that comes with that.
We're here for the rezone part.
We're here for the rezone, right? Period. You're correct. So we're talking about the zoning today. It was raised that, well, I think that this layout, what you're proposing, fits within the single family medium, and it does not. Clear that it would not work. And that's just what Scarlett pointed out on frontages. The single family high allows 60 feet wide frontages, single family medium allows 70. This particular, what we're proposing, and I understand that this is getting a little bit ahead because we're not talking about specific layouts, but some of the direction is we've met with the public now many times. We've met with this body, we've met with city council. The consistent feedback to us was bring us an actual layout. In any other city, we would be coming with a big box that said, we want to annex this and rezone this, right? In this particular case, the clear direction was come to these bodies with a layout you intend to build. And so that's why we have brought an actual layout. It's engineered, it fits. Those are actual, I mean, it's to scale.
Yeah.
It's not just a pretty picture.
Can we pull that up, Brian? So everybody can see that if we don't have it already.
I have a quick question, just based on some of the earlier comments during the public hearing. Is this the plan that you showed to the public during the sauerkraut days, or was there a different plan?
Are you looking at this same plan right here? Yeah, 74 lots.
Yeah, according to the comments, they said there was a plan with 63.
And I hate to accuse anybody of miscounting, but yeah, there's always been 74 lots.
So
This is the plan. Yes. So this exact one, there was another 3D rendering that was also, and then some home elevations we had in there. And we talked to, I didn't keep track, but we talked to a ton of Providence residents all day long. We were there for 12 hours and the feedback was phenomenal. Lots of good feedback, lots of feedback of, hey, we voted against you in the referendum. We appreciate you coming back with something we like. I can get behind that. I mean, that was a consistent theme of the day. I heard that over and over and over that, yeah, that's good. But yes, this is what was on display there.
Okay.
Scarlett, you had?
Yes.
Dallas made a comment about the right of ways. If this is truly designed to a 60-foot right of way instead of 66 throughout it, they may lose a lot or two because our ordinance is 66 right of way throughout all residential streets. The asphalt width varies. So it would be 37 feet on, I don't remember that road, and my old eyes can't see it very well, but 37 feet on the main road that he was talking about.
170.
170. And then the minimum is 30 feet on the other roads, but the developer can choose to make that wider if they want, as far as the asphalt width. But the right of way width is 66. And I just want to remind the people in the audience that while they totally intend to build something very similar to this, it will still have to meet our ordinances. And staff has not looked at this to know if it meets the ordinance or not. So
I appreciate that clarification. The intent is that these are public roads.
Right.
If that's 66, so be it. Yeah, all public roads. There's no discussion of private roads here.
Which may bring the number down by a couple of
May.
if it does that.
It
But
may,
that would be
and Scarlett's exactly right. Full engineered plans will come in, and every time that happens, there's always tweaks here and there, and if a lot suffers, then so be it. But that's the intent.
Okay.
Let's see, let me just keep going down the list here. The question was brought up about a perimeter fence around the entire development.
Yeah.
Today around her particular property, there is a fence. We have never intended to replace that fence. We do have the fence along 1000 East, that Simtech, that brown fence. Our proposal would be to continue that along 1000. But the intent today would not to be to fence the perimeter.
So it wouldn't be
On that
between the property on the west. There would be no fence on the west side.
Whatever fence is there today, it would also be the fence. Now our CCNRs do dictate that any interior fencing that's done by residents has to be white vinyl.
Okay.
So as residents fill that in, it'll be consistent looking white vinyl.
Okay. Can you address the walking trail as well?
Yeah, I can. So in the original LCR proposal, there was on the very bottom left corner there, you can see the clubhouse parcel.
North is at the top.
North is up. On this parcel here, you see there's a trail down here. This is the existing trail down there. Today it just terminates, it just ends. And the original LCR proposal had that going north right along that boundary. And so there would have been a trail that goes north and wrapped the entire project. Today, LCR is dead, we're not going there. And so that trail along the west went with it. So today's proposal is not to build that trail along the west. Now we do intend to build or to finish kind of the loop. And so we'll build trail along the south portion of this proposal, and it would connect in over to the 1000 East Trail. So to address her concern, whether there's people walking along her fence, no, it would just be those residents to back up to her.
To back up to it because there's not done away with the trail.
That's right. But as you can see on this plan, along 1000, we do intend to build that trail corridor, continue that along. We've got lots of feedback, that people really like that. It's nice looking. It creates a good feel and lots of people use it. So we intend to finish that off. Let's see. What other questions here? Do you guys have any questions for me? Did I miss something?
I think you've addressed most of what was talked about. Let me just see. Traffic, schools. There was a question, and I think I don't know if it's you or Ryan who addressed that. The statement was made of something of no access. River Heights was not going to allow access onto 600 South. Is that correct?
At this point, since we don't have an annexation and a zone, we wouldn't have gone there, but our our request and procedure would be to ask the developer to communicate with anybody there, any other affected entity that they might touch. I would expect the 1,000 that the East Road, 1,000 East, that would come annexed in with, so that would be a city road at that point. But River Heights would be 600 South. We would require, as we do others, that they complete it to a standard road profile for that city. So if that city has the same as we do, they would have to fulfill that requirement. It's got to be completed as a road. So they'll have to build that road to complete it as if they were, in Millville building in us or somewhere else. We would require that. We would ask that it be done in reverse. So
The property line goes to, not into the center middle of the street on 600 South, correct?
I don't
I believe it's on it's the right of way of it. So your property, you would,
That's a good question. I guess I can't speak to it. It would appear that maybe it does go up into the right of way, and so there'd be a dedication there.
well, I guess my question to you
Oh,
is,
no,
are
sorry.
you, yeah.
The
it
yellow
doesn't
line
go-
there would be ours, yeah.
Yeah, it doesn't go to the middle of the road.
That's right.
So my question is, have you talked with River Heights in response to the comment made that they're never going to allow access?
It's an interesting question. This condition happens all the time, right? Every boundary from city to city gets developed up against, and connections get made all the time. So if I've never been in a position where a city says we won't let you connect. If that's the case, would we do away with that connection? I suppose we would. The question hasn't been asked explicitly, would you allow us to connect? No, it has not. Now I will say that with the traffic impact study that we're working on, just to help people, put them to ease. Like Ryan said, with the improvements that any city would ask for, we're 100% on board with that. We would come in to River Heights, say, look, here's our proposal, here's what your master plan road is, and we would come and improve that cross section just like any other development. So does that answer your question? Kind of,
Yes.
kind of not.
Yes, because your proposal shows us with that having access of that onto 600 South. Otherwise, there's just 600 South. Yes, there's that way in, and the other one is on
1000.
on 1000.
And-
So if
and-
that isn't granted, I mean, that's the only access in. Do you have a plan B, or just out of curiosity? My reason why I ask it is individuals have stated, and I don't know for sure, and I don't know if that's anything we get involved with or need to get involved with at this time in regards to having an impact on the zoning. That'll be when they come in with the engineering plans and what they're going to do, whether River Heights takes this position that they're not going to allow any access there, then we'll come up with some other access. You would have to be required to do that to meet that.
yeah, we'd look at that you would look at other accesses into the property, and for fire, we'd have to have a certain number of accesses. But if you look, they have accesses from the south, they have an access. I think it would make sense, and for planning purposes, if it were us in reverse, we would want to make sure that we connected to a cross-section street so that stop signs, four-way stops can be utilized as a traffic means, other uses. And so if this were in reverse, Providence would look to make sure that we had a lining of intersections so that when emergency response occurred, things like that. But again, as Scarlett said, we haven't looked at the plan because it's premature on a review of a staff perspective. So.
Given that we're at the annexation level, we're bringing a concept to the table, but that is the danger of bringing a concept to the table at this point, is everybody wants to, suck down in on the tail.
Well, but
We're
at the
not.
same time, in regards to just everything. I mean, that's what everybody asked for.
Sure.
We understand, but what we want you to do is show us what you're gonna do.
Right.
And it's a preliminary and it's a.
It's even a preliminary, right?
Yeah.
It's
So
highly conceptual, right?
conceptual right now. So I agree and understand, and I appreciate you doing that because you didn't have to do that. But I appreciate that you took the time and have done that. Anybody, any other questions or items that need to be addressed there?
I do have one other comment, I guess.
Sure.
You brought up traffic. One item to consider on a consistent question is, or concern is the traffic. And traffic to the school is higher now, and that comes up. The fact that Spring Creek Parkway now goes across and connects, that's also going to be a huge driving factor to people now going this way instead of maybe the other way, because they just flat can't, right? So there's a lot of residents that now have access to go this way. So that's something else to consider that.
All right. Members, anybody, any other comments? Thoughts or concerns? Dallas, anything else you'd like to say?
I guess just, maybe reemphasize the point that we've been around the block and as much as any development the visionary has done, we've sought public input and we'll never reach consensus with 100% of the population. We understand that. And I think you guys understand that. We've met with enough people that I feel like compared to where we're at, 210, now with 74, like I think that we've come a long way toward what the intent of that referendum was. And I think we can say with true, we heard it. We heard you guys loud and clear. And we think, that's a significant reduction. We're here, heard you. So I just want to say that we have tried, and we think that this really is a layout and it's a plan that, meets what we think the public in Providence asked for.
I have one last question if I can. Do you have an idea? I know it's early and all that of what these houses would sell for? A ballpark today of what I'm sure they're, to give us an idea.
These houses, I would guess, would start in the mid 500s is what I would guess.
Okay.
That would be a starting point.
Okay. Well, Providence is always looking for affordable housing. And
I've got a plan for you. If that's what you want.
It's taken a hit with interest rates going higher, inflation, everything else. But what Providence desires, I think, the most is single family housing that's affordable for people. I know that River Heights, some of the individuals from across the street would have liked to have seen $1 million homes in here that would have helped them. But I don't think that helps Providence as well. That's what we need to look at is for Providence. So I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Any one more time? Yeah.
The way I understand, and I understand it's a concept plan. It's not.
You got to use your mic, Joe. Sorry.
I said I understand it's a concept plan, but the way it's oriented, if I'm looking at it right, the clubhouse is down in the southwest corner of the property.
That's right.
How many people do you think will anticipate use the clubhouse during summertime, the pool and that? How many residents
Are you asking like a specific number, or are you asking like, do you think a lot or very few? Like
a ballpark? I mean, it's right next to the Paces property, the way it's situated. I know that if I were living at Paces, I'd be concerned about the number of people that are going to be partying in my backyard.
Sure. And I understand
it's a concept.
Well, and that's where the pool's been planned from day one. And so it's just been anchored there from day one, and it's still anchored there. If the consensus and Pace is that a concern, like, look, move it across the street and put one home next to us, like, okay, that we're amenable to those kind of discussions. But I would expect, you've got 148 units down on that south end, 74 more on the top potentially, and the pool being right there. Yeah, it'll be heavily used. I mean, we hope it is. If it's not, then I'll be disappointed.
What type of fence is existing there now? Is it a barbed wire?
I believe it's just a field fence.
Is that correct? Did you have to leave
The chain link there.
the chain link?
And I would expect that along the back of the clubhouse area and the public, the open space, that we would put a solid line fence there.
Can you tell us about this development agreement as regards to the amenities again? It just doesn't, it sounds, this is my expectation. If the land has not been annexed into the city, you really can't have a development agreement that says when we finish that other side, it's not yet annexed in, then we'll go ahead and finish the amenities. So give me an idea there, because we've had this discussion and we've changed the statutes on this. It doesn't affect this property, but tell me, I mean, why isn't it done?
If you go back to how this project laid out, it was done, it was annexed in two pieces, right? South piece came in, annex zone approved, and then the north piece came in. The intent, and the city was on board, and the intent was that, well, look, we're just going to move into the next piece. And so, yeah, the amenities is in the next piece. It was never considered that, oh, wait, that next piece may not happen. Right?
Yep.
So we find ourselves in kind of an unfortunate situation that says, well, look, we want to build that. We intended to build that, but now all of a sudden we find ourselves not being able to. I can't go get a building permit on that piece
Because
in the county.
the pool?
On that pool and clubhouse piece,
Oh.
without improving the road up to it, because that piece is in the county.
Okay, so the amenities are in the part we're talking about.
The amenities are
And
located
annexing.
in this.
Okay. I see the issue. So there was a promise made for the South Vineyard South that they would get these amenities. It's probably not in the development agreement of any sort, isn't there? No development agreement that says they're going to get it. It was a promise. What do you think, Scarlett?
Not on the city's part. We followed our ordinance and required them to do the percentages as they built things out. So they fulfilled what they needed to that met our city code. I don't know what their agreements would have been with, like, creating the homeowners association, their private CCNRs, things like that. There might have been something in there, but as far as the city's part of the development agreement, they followed the percentages that met our code, and that's all we could really ask for. So
So the thing that's binding us to put in those improvements is our commitment to the residents.
So it's a commitment.
It's our commitment to the residents that, hey,
Yeah,
there's
there'll
gonna
be a shared
That's right.
responsibility then.
That's right. But I don't think we've ever tried to back out of that.
No, we keep hearing about the pool.
Yeah, we keep.
And the
you're right.
amenities, and
Keeps coming
we
up.
were concerned on other properties, the same thing was happening, so the statute has been changed.
Yeah.
Okay, I understand better.
Okay.
Everybody good?
Good.
Dallas, thank you very
Okay.
much. I
Thank you,
appreciate
guys.
that.
Appreciate you.
Now we talk amongst ourselves and there's any questions, concerns?
So this would be closer to affordable housing, but
That's a high
even
price.
at 400,000, it's really, doesn't even get close.
Yes, you're right. The townhouses were a few months ago. I don't know if they're still that high. Shelley? How about you? Any thoughts, any concerns, any comments? Any points of discussion for the committee? Commissioners?
I have a lot of thoughts. But I'm still very much, learning. I'm concerned about the access points, especially where that 600 South is not a guarantee. And hearing that there have already been some issues with emergency response. I think a big part of our mission is to preserve natural scenery and allow for people to recreate. And I'm not sure, that the plan I'm looking at allows for much of that. There's a small amount of recreation. I don't know, maybe the pickleball court is on the other piece.
Yes,
Do that?
I believe those amenities are over there. Is that correct, Dallas?
All the amenities will be done in that corner.
In that corner. So those things would be there.
Yeah, so those are some of my
Yeah.
thoughts.
Well, and I agree that the road issue is a concern for 600 South. I think would be an ideal option to have access that way, but River Heights has felt very different about, residents of River Heights have felt very different about the continued development on here and what it should be and what they would like it to be. So
I think we've got a solution with River Heights, and that is, we could ask Dallas to put in a wall up there. If they don't want access there, Mexico doesn't either. So let's just put a wall there. Let's make it really tall.
we probably have an ordinance against that.
Yeah, we probably do. Yes, we'll skip that idea.
So we got to look at what's best for Providence, and best for this development, and best for homes and single-family homes, in my opinion, which is still in such high demand.
And be good neighbors to River Heights.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely, absolutely. I wish they would have built $400,000 homes over there on that side, or 300,000. So they probably were at one time. All right, anybody else, Bob?
Yeah, I visited with some people to give their opinions, and the consensus was that single family homes is good. They'd like to have the lot size roughly equivalent to the neighboring neighborhoods. And, sounds like they may be a little smaller, but I don't know for sure.
So if you look to the south, those would be smaller. Those would be smaller than what's proposed in these for the homes that are over here.
The homes on the north, on the, well, what I'm thinking is down Spring Creek west sides of those lots, and also north of River Heights.
Yeah. Yeah, I think those are 8,000 or 10,000 square feet lots, if I remember right, looking at them.
So those were concerns that that people raised when I was talking to them.
It's preliminary. Those things would have to be met. Our objective really today is to look at the request from the developer for single family high, and then you get down to the details, the requirements, road access, emergency vehicle access, all of those different things. So I think that's where we're at. Does anybody have any other questions or comments that they'd like to make regarding this for us
I
to
do
talk
have
about?
some questions, but basically to Scarlett, tell me what some math, if you wouldn't mind. So I got onto the parcel viewer, and there are 50.87 acres according to the county. Now, that might be different with a survey or something. And I'm not trying to do the math perfect. Let's round that to 51 and say that there are four acres that would be used up in roads.
Where are you getting the 50 acres?
Dallas, what is the size of that parcel?
There's a 5-acre parcel and a 45.53 acre parcel, according to the parcel.
But maybe that was the whole thing. I think 20 what
It's 5.34 and 15.53.
Okay.
21 acres. 21.36.
I just
We
want
got
to
a math
round.
teacher out.
I'm not that good. Let's just call it 21 and call 2 acres out of it for roads. And I could be way off on that. Gives me a starting point. So there are 43,560 acres in feet per feet in an acre. So that's 827,640. And divide that by 8,000 if you're in the medium. That would be 100. Don't panic with these numbers. I'm just trying to see a relationship and a proportion. So that'd be 103 homes, rounded off.
In one way to calculate,
If you're calculating just on lot size.
Yeah.
Yeah,
on
but
lot
you have-
size.
but then you've got to calculate on density on the other side, on the, so that you have a,
Understand what I really want to understand.
so then you have your density calculation.
So, I mean, take 19 times 5.5. You guys are gonna see how stupid I am with math. That's 104.5. So the maximum that you'd have either under either one would be 104. But with an 8,000 square foot lot, I guess the question I have is, let me finish this. At 6,000 square feet, you still have the same 5.5. So what happens to the excess acreage? Does it go into an open space?
Depends how the developer designs it. He could put it in an open space, he could make lots bigger. It gives them flexibility to do different things. You know, if they end up having to change road designs, there may be a cul-de-sac in there. Different things like that, that could take that space. But either way, we don't necessarily dictate. Because it's my understanding, this is a public, the south side is definitely private, but this is public. These are public streets. This is a public development, just like Brookside. And they are the same exact zone. Brookside is single family high. That's the brownish color.
Let's look at Brookside. Because Brookside's been in there for 20 years, hasn't it?
Yeah, that's that goldish brown, or that rusty brownish color. That's single family high, just like this one. And it has a variety of lot sizes in it.
Can't
And
tell where we are. We're looking at this map.
yes, whoops. Yeah, and that rust color, this is single family high. And that's where all of those, and then this property, yeah, it's right where Ryan's got the cursor.
Right above them.
Yeah.
And the blue is the Visionary South, which is the life cycle
Right,
zone.
which was a density of 12, maximum density of 12 units per acre.
So really, whether we go single family medium or single family high, we're still bound by 5.5, the density of 5.5.
Right. I don't know why they did it like that 30 years ago when they created these, but that's how they did it.
Because what I was thinking is you get 5.5, if you put in 6,000 square feet lot, they've got to do something with the other, and it's either going to be open space, or it's going to be a clubhouse, or it's going to be something else, but you're still limited to 5.5.
Right. Yes.
There, I heard there was gonna be a bigger pool. Pool size was and deeper too.
Thank you.
I hope I didn't take us
No,
up a blind, blind
I think
road.
that-
I wanted to understand.
I like the idea of parks, when they put in Brookside, I remember when they put in Brookside, and I was a little concerned that it was small, tiny, and they were gonna turn out to be ratty houses and not unkept. And it's not done that at all. I mean, I know the turnover there is higher than other parts of town, but places are kept up.
It is a bit, you have some longevity over there too. I know some of the people that live there have lived there that whole entire time. So, and then I know there's quite a few people in my neighborhood that thought they were gonna be there for a long time, and job transfers happen, and we get lots of new in and outs too. So, but I do think the density question boils down to the 5.5 units per acre. And that's what we have
And
to.
the frontage.
Yes, and the frontage. So,
Thank you, Scarlett.
Yep.
All right. Any other discussion need to take place? If nobody has any other discussion, I would entertain a motion. Go on there.
I'd like to make a motion, Mr. Chairman, regarding this legislative action. The rezoning or zoning recommendations for parcels 2, 4, and 1 and 2, 4, and 2, the also known as the Vineyard North Phase. I propose that we send this on to the city council with a recommendation that we recommend to the city council that this property be rezoned as as high density, single family, high density.
Yep, that's okay. You're all right. We don't have the other stuff. We have a
Oh, we
motion.
don't.
Yeah, we
That's
don't
all
do
we
it at
gotta
that
do.
time. That's correct. What we're doing is looking to how we feel and whether we pass this on. So we have a motion by Brian Marble that we recommend to the city council to approve the single family high zone on this property. Do I have a second?
Brian, would you be offended if I amended your motion?
No, I've never offended. I think it would be fine.
I would like to add an amendment on it because, and let me explain why. Because once, I get the idea that the Vineyard is committed to the, what was it, the 74 lots? But that's not legally binding on it.
No, it's not. And that, my interest is just in zoning. I don't know why I don't like it when we bring up this future. Once this zone takes place, right, the developer can do anything he wants to it. That within the statutes that have been, of the city.
Well, the public comment that I heard was that this concept plan is what they're in favor of. The public is in favor of 74 lots.
But they're not gonna get it. They probably will get it.
I guess that's my
Why
point.
would they not get it?
Well, because they're not bound. We're not binding Visionary at this point on anything.
And I guess that's where I want to amend the motion is take what you said and put subject to the city council somehow making sure that it's a 74 lot. For no greater than 74 lots.
We've never done that before. We've been up against it before, but we've never done it before, and I don't want to start it now. Plus, I'm not sure by statute we can do that.
Well, and the
I mean,
other side of it,
I guess if we just recommending,
Yeah,
then great, let's recommend lots of things. Let's recommend that they move the amenities over and start with them, and that's the kind of thing, but yeah, okay, sure.
I'm just trying to be responsive to the public comments that I've heard.
the one thing is usually in the past also, we typically do not see a concept plan.
Right,
We're zoning.
it's not required.
Not required that they provide it. So
We are just considering the rezone to single family high. I don't think that we had public support for that today based off of what I heard from the public here and the comments online and what we've seen in the past.
But given the fact that this project can't be done at single family medium because of the frontage requirements and the density of 5.5 is the same on the high versus the medium,
single family medium, that's the same.
they can do the 74 lots on the single family high. But I want to, I trust Vineyard. I'm not saying they're dishonest, but I think if we're going to make a recommendation to the city council, it should be the single family high, subject to the council finding some way to commit when they annex in that it's the 74 lot.
Yes, you may.
I'm fine with that. And we have every intention of building that plan. And so we're happy to take that recommendation, work with staff, work with city council and figure out a way to move that forward in the city council process. So we're totally fine with that.
My.
But you're not
process-
bound to it.
Well, but my
When
thought was,
you say that, yes, and it's nothing against visionary. The idea is great, but we're just talking about a rezone here.
the city council isn't. City council can, through the annexation, tie down the lot size, even though the zoning says that. They can also,
Really?
I think they can.
That's what Ryan,
Two points of clarification. One, we're talking about a zone assignment, not a rezone. So that at this point, just so that's, a clarification, they don't have a zone assignment at this point. This is
Not in the city.
that's correct.
and on our master plan, it just showed.
That would be a potential. So, the second point of clarification is you had a motion. I would say that, asked for amendment, probably a better to have have just a new motion. If that's what the discussion started to have, we went from motion to motion. So we probably need to come back around to that.
Chairman, I'd like to retract my motion.
Thank you. All right, based off of that, with the understanding that, in my opinion, there's a great deal of support for medium density, single family medium. But because of the options that are in single family high for frontage issues and the tying of the density being the same within either one of those zones, I believe what the developer is asking for, single family high meets that. And I support Joe's position and suggestion that our recommendation, which is that's all we do is recommend and leave it to the city council who can address that further. And note that for the record that Visionary's representative have stated their commitment to it, and we will let city council figure out the legal verbiage and whatever that would be needed if they so choose to do that. So with that, I will entertain a motion.
I would like to make a motion that Joe makes a motion. Okay, I retract that one, but that's my feeling. I think Joe ought to go ahead and make.
I'll try. I would make a motion that the planning commission make a recommendation to the city county regarding the zoning of parcels 241, 02, 004, 0001 and parcel 0002 for single family high density, subject to the city council taking action in the annexation to bind Vineyard to a density, Visionary, thank you. Visionary to a density on this project of no more than 74 lots.
I'll second the motion.
We have a motion from Joe Chambers. We have a second by Brian Marble. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Nay.
We have one nay. We have 3 yays. The motion passes. The recommendation passes. Thank you, everyone, for being with us.
Now that it's muffled, I would think just by order of practice that it would be my impression that the council reviewing the meetings and we have a council liaison here would give the intent of where that recommendation went.
Not permit any access to 6 house, the mayor of River Heights.
I don't know that he can say that. I mean, as a mayor, as a previous mayor, that would clearly not be binding.
Previous mayor, I was the present mayor. Now,
If that was said, I don't know that I heard that said. I didn't bring that up. I apologize. That's not for me.
Okay. We have another item of business. I am going to ask if we take a 5-minute recess. If anybody wants to get a drink or go to the restroom. And we will come back for item number 3.
Oh, you want to see this?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Okay, so what I always do is I go to Google. Cash county.
Shelley.
GIS stands for.
Just for those that are still here, keep in mind, we still live stream and the meeting isn't actually paused or anything in that. It's still on the record and everything else.
No.
It's a little slow.
Some of the areas.
How are you?
Good, how are you doing?
Good, sit down.
There's probably a price point. Yeah, medium density.
Could almost make.
You could make a medium
Almost.
density plan,
Like,
but maybe not, especially if River Heights don't want to have access to the road, and that will cause them to have to do some running. You know, to change so that they, if they will still need fire access, they'll still need a street. Go through the building. So then they can't do a curb. Then they'll have to do some curb. And that push through will then start to take up, you know, those pressures, and then create those pressures lost. And so then, that's where that 10 feet really makes it. I mean, 60 feet back from the fire. So I think where the setback is. Okay, then that would make it. But I don't, I'm not going to say that it's going to go easy to get to one of them, it's good. But the drawing that we've got right here.
You're closer to 20% for roads. Then when you calculate your numbers.
See you. Sort of nice to see him.
So
You and I got a talk.
You're gonna go.
I thought it.
I think it's yeah, it's so if you do, then you're about the 88. That's the max for the 5.5, not the 100. Because you took out 10%. Probably ought to take out 20% for your roads. No, it's fine. I figured that wasn't time to calculate splitting hairs. So,
Interesting. When I saw the correlation, you did the 6,000 versus the 8,000, 5.5. You ended up having an extra acre that wasn't in there. You either used a lot and brought them up to 7,500.
imagine your corner lots are always bigger. So they take up more space because you have setbacks on both sides. So every corner lot has to be bigger. And every cul-de-sac lot has to be bigger. And so when you take those two into the account, you have to have some that are bigger lots. It just doesn't, it's not as easy as just taking and dividing the number.
All right, if everybody's ready, we'll call our meeting back together. We will move on to item number 3, Little Baldy Place subdivision, partial amendment number 2. Providence City Planning Commission will consider and may take action on a request to approve the Little Baldy Place subdivision partial amended number 2, amending an internal lot restriction on lot 30 by moving the buildable envelope to the east. We will you're considering may take action. So, okay, this is an item that we may take some administrative action on. And so Scarlett, can we invite you up for that? And I believe you two gentlemen, now that you have the whole place to yourself, this is what you're here for.
Thank you for your patience.
So we, in the Little Baldy subdivision, because of power line easements, slope, all kinds of different things in that particular development, we did something we hadn't done before that subdivision. And we actually had that developer create building envelopes within each lot so that we could, because you might have a 3-acre lot, but when you look at the the buildable envelope, there may only be 14,000 square feet of buildable envelope. We also needed to have those buildable envelopes marked on the plat, surveyed in, so that when somebody came in as staff, we could look at the plan, we could look at their surveyed site plan, and we could make sure that they were putting the house where it said. Those buildable envelopes, and now since that one, we actually have used them quite frequently on lots that have sensitive areas involved. And so, but those buildable envelopes are what's called an internal lot restriction, because it's something a little different than the norm. And but the plat has its governing rules. So in order to change that buildable envelope, they have to come to you and do an amended plat to change that internal lot restriction. And that's what they're asking for. They would like to move the buildable envelope just a little bit to the east. By doing so, they would excavate out so that they keep their same elevation for water pressure reasons and fire flow. But they, which would mean they would have to retain maybe a little bit more than they would have at the other one. But to go through this, in the findings of fact, I'm not going to read through all of these, but we do look at state code, we look at the general plan, we look at the transportation plans, or excuse me, the master plans. We also look at our city code. We talk about sensitive areas, since that's a pretty important thing in this area. And one of the things that this lot has on it that is unique to only a couple of the lots up in that development, and unique to only a few lots throughout the city, is that there is a potential flood study that was done in, I think it was updated in 2012. It was done prior to that, but it was updated in 2012. And it looked at the drainage coming off the face of the mountains. And so when this development came in, the design engineer brought that study in with them and explained their mitigation strategies for the development to keep the home safe in that development. This particular lot has 2 of those drainage basins on the east. I don't think they're, the one is on the
north and south.
The one is on this lot. The other one is on the lot to the south, but the drainage channels of both of those basins come down on either side of this lot. And so that's an important thing that they have addressed as well. And then of course they have to meet the final plat requirements. When we look at the conclusions, as far as the framework and the general plan and the Parks, Trails and Recreation plan and the transportation plan, those things were all met with the original subdivision. And since they're not changing the size of the lot or anything, those things are still in place from the original one. We're just totally focusing on the internal lot restriction. And one of the things that I wanted to make clear, because it confused me, and I don't know, I'm not the smartest crayon in the box for sure. But I wanted to make it really clear because they did the buildable envelope with a dashed line marks the buildable envelope, but on your staff report, I've kind of done a squiggly green line that goes around that.
Right.
But then the dash lines continue down to the very far west of the lot, the west boundary of the lot. Those two dash lines that are circled, those are actually survey ties. So that when somebody goes out to do their survey, they would see that they start with those corner pins on the lot, and then they take those measurements, and that goes up and gives them those 2 corner points on the buildable envelope. So this doesn't change the buildable envelope any farther to the west. The buildable envelope stays where it is along the east boundary, stays where it always has. It changes it to the east.
Okay.
It's where we're changing. And we may mention that the public, sometimes when you're amending a plat, you need to hold a public hearing. This does not meet the standard that you would need to hold a public hearing. It's not required because the petition seeks to adjust an internal lot restriction. And so that's not required for a public hearing. But here's the thing that you do need to look at, and this is from state code. The planning commission must find there is good cause for the vacation or the amendment, and no public street or municipal utility easement has been vacated or amended. And they haven't moved any of the, they didn't move the power line easement, they didn't move the public utility easements. They're only moving they're not moving the easements for they had to change their line just a teeny bit to make sure that they didn't impact the easement for the drainage channels. So they're only moving the internal lot line. So you can find that there's no public street or municipal utility easement being vacated, but it will be up to you to decide the good cause. And that's a planning commission decision. Staff doesn't get into that. That's between you and the developer. We talk about the sensitive areas, and they address those in a statement prepared by their engineer. One of the things that we did on this one, because the same firm that's doing this lot amendment is the firm that did the original subdivision. So we wanted to know what changed, why the difference between now and the original subdivision. And so the engineer provided a letter on August 19th, 2022 for the request and the rationale. And I'll let you look at that letter. And he has signed that letter. He is a licensed engineer. It doesn't have his engineering stamp on it, I don't believe, but he has signed it. So also included, he has shown how the sensitive areas impact this particular lot in the yellow and the red. The yellows are potentially developable, so they can move dirt around on those. The reds are the ones they have to ignore. They discuss how they're going to provide the water pressure. One of the things that is different on this, from this letter, they talked about if they needed to, they would install another fire hydrant. That's not going to be necessary. It won't have the positive impact that you might think it would. And so they don't need to do that. That's come from our fire marshal's office and from our public works director. So all of those things being said, prior to the recording of the final plat, the developer will have to make sure, or the applicant will have to make sure that the surveyor certificate, while they've stamped it, I'm pretty sure it says draft on it, and they have not signed it. And so that will have to be, the draft would have to be removed, and it will have to be signed by the surveyor. And then the city engineer will ultimately have to verify the legal description. If you approve this and they have to make any changes to anything, the city engineer will verify that. So those two things have to be done. You, as the planning commission, if you choose to approve the amendment, then you must find there's good cause for the amendment. And then our standard condition that the applicant will continue to meet all relevant federal, state, county Providence City rules, laws, codes, ordinances. Approval by the city of any application or paperwork submitted does not alleviate the owner and or their agents from their responsibility to understand and conform to local, state, and federal laws. Providence City's approval is not intended to and cannot be construed to allow any laws to be violated. One of the things that you don't have to do, even though they've provided it, you don't have to worry about the site plan as to where their house is going to sit and everything. Your focus tonight is, do you feel that there's good cause to allow them to move that buildable envelope, to excavate the ground a little bit more and move that buildable envelope to the east? So, questions?
Easement for this drainage. What can they do in that easement? They can't fill it in, grade it or whatever, because it needs to drain the water.
Yeah, it's been calculated and designed the way it's supposed to contain to the drainage basin to retain what it can, or detain what it can, and then it channels down through this channel, and it's been designed to hold the water that they think could happen. So they can't make any changes to that basin or that channel. They could put a fence on the side of it, so long as they didn't change the channel, you know,
They could clean brush and stuff.
in fact, they do need to do that kind of stuff when it's on their property, but they can't fill it in with landscaping and.
I walked up there today and this north drainage is has a pretty steep. But the one on the south is hard to tell where it really is. And I just wondered, you know, what can be moving it to the east, they're gonna have to dig down further.
Right, and we'll look at the construction drawings, we'll have them look at the construction drawings as well for the original channel and drainage basins to make sure that once they're done moving dirt around, the integrity is kept of those channels and basins.
Looking to increase the building envelope or move it?
We are actually increasing it because they didn't move the west line, they just moved the east one a little.
We're just increasing it by 0.01 acres, which is 700 square feet is all we want to move it back.
How far east are you
70 feet.
I'm moving at 70 feet.
Right.
The whole line.
The east line will be moved roughly 70.
But it will, the excavation will follow the elevation required to get the accurate or the adequate water pressure and fire flows.
As far as the water pressure is concerned, the main level of the house is going to be set up to 5,085 feet. So it's gonna be the same level, so you're going to have the same 50 psi pressure that Providence City has asked that development to have, although state only requires 40 psi. So we're going to keep the 50 psi to stay within Providence City's ordinances. And as far as the areas of steepness, we're not going into any of the red areas, so none of that is going to be affected. And as far as once the house is in place, there will be no steep slopes of that 20% within the first 15 feet. And then at that point, then we're going to have engineered retaining walls that will go in where they will actually be needed. And as far as the drainage ditches, we're not going to be touching any of the drainage ditches.
Yeah, it says
Either side of it.
no construction will occur within the stormwater debris basin.
Correct.
Those things, so you're not going to get into that area, and that the grading plan has been updated to avoid any impact for the south drainage channel and so forth. So we're not going to have anything going on there.
Correct.
And the house stays above the 5085
For the main level.
main
Which is-
level. Yeah.
What's the reason for
away from the power lines. Right now, it's just, there's a great big power lines right there and then over the house tucked right up underneath. I get back.
Does it provide you with more gentle?
It does that as
Driveway.
well. The driveway, some of those driveways where they built, like my neighbor that's directly, well, that neighbor, you could see the neighbor closest to the south, they really had to build that road up, that building pad, and then it dropped very sharply off to the sidewalk. I want to maintain as much natural habitat as possible that's already there. And just try to match that existing line that's there. And build the house with the back, so all the grading can be more gradual.
We'll keep everything underneath the 12% for the fire trucks to go up there and have the 20-foot wide road with the hammerhead. I know we have a circle driveway in there, but talking with Aaron Walker, he suggested we just do the hammerhead and gave us the dimensions of that. And I actually got those sent over to me tonight at 5, a little after 5. Actually, I think you guys might have the. So if you guys have this.
I don't know, I don't think we have it.
But
This is
For
the
the fire.
hammerhead version,
well, they laid it out so that this was the original design,
right?
and Aaron told us to just do the hammerhead. So we're basically stop construction of this section.
So this part right here will go away.
Right.
You're just doing this.
So he's just telling us to do the hammerhead and that'll take care of what. Anything that the.
Anybody else want to look at it?
Yeah, I'd like to see it. I'll find
So we're doing things to move the house away from the power lines. I'll get back to where
The only reasoning for putting that buildable lot, the buildable envelope where it is, was moving to 50 PSI. That was the only reason. So we're staying within the 50 PSI.
right? Says the planning commission must find there is good cause for the vacation or amendment for these things. So help me understand, besides just wanting to have my house a little bit away from power lines, what's the good cause that would justify
Getting the house away from the power lines.
And that's one, and the other, I think, is the grade of the driveway. To me, that's a safety issue.
So yours keeps it under 12% now.
Yeah.
Any other
He
items
has
I'm missing?
He's got over a 4-acre lot and he's
Yeah.
only allowed like 4 acres at this point.
Yeah.
I don't feel another 0.01 acres is asking a lot out of it. What size retaining wall do you think you're gonna have to?
It's most likely gonna be rock, just tiered rocks as we go on.
Landscaping rock, boulders.
So one of the comments or one of the concerns was if a lot of water comes down there, it may erode the soil and cause water to come into your home. Is that?
The way we'll have a design, I grew up on the side of a mountain in Mount Sterling, and my basement as a child flooded because of that right there. I'm going to make certain that doesn't happen on my nice new home.
As far as like the channels, but when you're asking about. Here's the south channel, which is right here, and that's basically really the edge of his driveway. Is the south channel, and then this channel here, which you say you walked up there, it's at this point here, it's very high and it drops.
It's got a
substantial.
nice shape.
So this side here is gonna channel all that water down. None of it will even get
I don't feel we'll ever get up here. And then on top of that, there's a concrete retention pond that they put in there before you even bought the lots.
Right, yeah.
That's gonna help minimize the amount of water coming down here, which would be the closest to the corner of the house, but where this corner of the house is at, it's at the highest point of this channel of this ditch, essentially. So, okay.
Anybody have any other comments or questions? Scarlett or the developers?
Thank you, Russ.
Phil, you good? Tyler? I'll start to say it's not really clear.
I was gonna add in that in terms of good cause, in addition to getting away from the power lines and having a safer driveway. All the water pressure concerns are met, so it's a matter of their exercising the private property rights.
Which is good.
Sounds like you want to make a motion.
I'm
Yes.
happy. with the motion.
Let's do it here.
All right. If there's no other comments,
Please don't recuse yourself.
I would entertain a motion.
I'd make a motion that we approve the partial amended number 2 for Little Bali Place subdivision, partial amended number 2 by an amendment for moving an internal lot restriction on lot 30, moving the buildable envelope to the east, subject to the findings of fact, conditions, and conclusions in the staff report, finding good cause that this will allow building a home further away from the power lines with a safer driveway and maximizing their private property rights.
Thank you. I've got a motion from Tyler Riggs and a second from Joe Chambers. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Vote is unanimous. Motion passes. Thank you. Thank you very much. And good luck with all that. You think you'll get start building then?
And yeah,
Before the snow falls?
Can you make some of the material pricing drop?
We'll do that in our next meeting along with finding way for houses.
I think that's it for our meeting. The last thing I failed to mention earlier, I realized it was to just make note that Bob Perry had to resign from the commission due to work conflict and so forth with his job. And so that's why Bob is no longer. I don't believe he moved. Yeah, I believe he is. I just.
We'd have to approve that.
We could deny that.
Still around.
All right. Shelley, we invite the newcomers to be the ones who close the meeting. So it'll be a requirement for the rest of your term. Make a motion to close.
I make a motion that we adjourn.
Any seconds?
Let's not second it and see what she does.
I'd like to amend that.
Everybody but Joe.
I'll second it.
We have a motion by Shelley, needs a second by Brian.